I asked, and all you sci-fi romantics out there chose single-episode romances for this week's...
Yeah, it's the best five, worst five, know what I mean? Yeah, it's the best five, worst five tracks ever seen.
There are more than 70 entries into this category, and using data from my ranking series of every episode, out of almost 800 live-action episodes of Trek, the average single-episode romance averages out to number 506. That doesn't mean there aren't good single-episode romances in bad episodes, but an indicator of how poorly as a whole the topic has been presented in the franchise. At 5th worst single-episode romance, Cisco's Ghost Girl. Really, this takes the title for probably the most boring one-and-done romance plot. Cisco keeps seeing a woman that talks to him sensually on the anniversary of the death of his wife. He can't find any record of her on the station until her face turns up as the wife of a visiting scientist. Only she doesn't know anything about it. Turns out she turns into an energy version duplicate of herself when she sleeps occasionally. A deeply unsatisfying romance plot. Number 4. Hair Fetish. This episode just makes me feel really uncomfortable with every scene between Deanna and Raul, which is what it's set up to do. Devanani treats Deanna like property, but it's portrayed in the popular at the time bodice ripper style of the late 80s. The hair scene in particular is bizarre for an episode of Trek. It's thick with manipulation and emotional abuse, but disguised as seduction. Maybe a way to hook women into Trek in the early 90s? Anyway, the scenes between Deanna and Raul go on for an awkward amount of time, especially the 5 minutes in bed conversation. While Raul definitely plays games with Deanna, at least this one's consensual, I guess. Number 3. Mrs. Robinson's Ghost Lover. TNG makes the list again, but this time with Beverly Crusher as her Nana's OG lover, 17th century Scottish ghost essence. This episode is about a male entity who has bedded a long line of Howard women in a Hey Mrs. Robinson plot, complete with disrobing and grandma zombies. If it was meant to be taken seriously, I don't want to. Everyone knows this is a terrible episode and it aired during TNG's All in the Family season. What keeps it from being bottom is the fact that at least Beverly consents to her wild green Spectre ride. If you want a better Ronald D. Moore produced Scottish romance, we recommend Outlander. Number 2. Aging Poorly. This episode in TNG's 6th season feels more like it belongs in season 2 or 3 based on the writing and production. An ambassador that drains women of their youth targets Deanna as his next victim. While Troy has been subjected to creepier scenarios, this one aging her into what we know as a time when Betazoid women have their libidos kicked into overdrive is yet another version of the character where the R word comes into play. I don't remember a scene where consent is discussed for using Deanna's body to de-age Alcar. While writing generally got better after season 2 of TNG, Deanna's stories were continually written worse as the series went on. For the worst entry in Trek single-episode romances, Instantly Desirable. TOS as a whole is a product of a 1960s misogynistic era. Nowhere is that more apparent than our first meeting of Harry Mudd, human trafficker. The Enterprise saves Mudd and his cargo of beautiful women. Not only is he selling them to the highest bidder, but is artificially making them more attractive by also showing us that he's a drug pusher. Well, in the end, the moral of the story is supposed to be that beauty is within you and all it takes is belief in yourself to appear beautiful to others. The drug and its placebo don't add up to getting your makeup and hair redone between cuts and the absolutely deplorable way this episode portrays women. Let's take a romantic stroll over to the best. At number 5, Oneway Street. There are quite a few one-sided desire romances portrayed across the franchise. Only one truly seems to have a meaningful conclusion when Tuvok and Paris end up stuck on a planet in a pocket of space outside normal time. For them, this episode plays out over months as they band together with another stranded woman named Naz. She develops feelings for Tuvok that he can't return, as we learn that he had an emotional problem with love when he was young. While he rebuffs her advances, you almost get the sense that if they'd been trapped there longer, a real mutual romance may have been in the cards. Either way, the final scene where Tuvok mind melds with her to try and convey a mutual admiration and also his complex Vulcan issues is one of the most beautiful endings to a single episode romance. Number 4. Nonbinary Love. This episode recently landed itself in the worst categories of Courtroom Trek for how it destroys an absolutely brilliant romance between Riker and wanting to be binary Soren. Their relationship blossoms organically, working together on a shuttle mission to save a crew from her race trapped in a pocket of null space. Never have we seen Riker willing to risk his career for what he believes and desires, quite like doing a black op to try and save his love from lobotomy, to no avail. Soren deserved better, and it's one of Riker's most poignant romance stories. Number 3. Old Flames Burn Bright. When another joined Trill, whose past host was married to one of Dax's, comes on board, old feelings start to overtake them. Some say this was just a throwaway reason to get two ladies to kiss on mid-90s television, but I find this a very moving story that leaves me crushed for Dax when Lenara has to leave due to taboo of past host relationships in Trill society. In the first real decade where LGBTQ issues were discussed more openly in popular media, this heartbreaking pairing gets a well-deserved entry in this best list. Number 2. Lost Love. In a plot of literal star-crossed lovers, Quark's lost flame comes back to him being chased by the Cardassian military due to being part of a pro-democracy group on Cardassia. Years before, in classic Quark fashion, he betrayed her trust and used her access in a heist. This is one of a very few uncharacteristic Quark moments where you truly feel for him the entire way through. After being shot by her over a cloaking device, she finally shows in the third act that she never stopped loving him, despite his treachery. There really only seems to be one formula, reused and redressed, in these top 5 that works, as this one ends again with two people being in the wrong place at the wrong time, as ships pass in the night. Number 1. The Spy Who Regenerated Me. With 3 entries in the top 5, DS9 was really good at single-episode romances. Odo's single-episode fling with his investigative and saucy friend Arissa, who at first Odo struggles to pick up on obvious coded hints of attraction from his detective counterpart. Eventually Odo becomes comfortable in his work with his new partner as a quick romance is developed over the course of this otherwise mediocre mystery plot. Complete with smooth talk, flirtation, and suggestive comments, Odo and Arissa seem to mutually respect each other and enjoy each other's company. The romance is observed by his station mates as Odo becomes a piece of spicy gossip. Odo and Arissa's connection builds to a mature and deep intimacy that was never meant to last, as Arissa is revealed to be an operative so undercover she doesn't know who she is, or that she has a husband. A tearful goodbye with her real self shows how deeply Arissa loved Odo and leaves him unsure of himself after his first bedroom encounter that's forced to exit his life. What's your favorite single-episode romance across Trek?